Hi, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Monday, and Monday usually means jazz. I'm going to go back and look over some albums that I talked about way back in the opening episodes. At that time, I talked about some bands, and I lumped a large number of their albums together just to give you an idea of all the albums I had available. But I really didn't give you a lot of information about individual albums, or impressions I had about individual albums and what I thought of them. So I'm going to go back over some of those early episodes and pull out some individual albums that I thought really stood out and represented some unique stages of the different bands. Now, what I'm going to look at today, big band, Woody Herman's big band. And while I've been aware of Woody Herman for a number of years before I really started buying the albums, my first Woody Herman album was in the early 70s. Raven Speaks, and we'll talk about that maybe in another couple of weeks. Today I'm going to go back to where Woody started to incorporate more rock songs, more popular music into his playing, and again trying to hit different audience. Right, he'd been around since the 40s doing big band music, and this album from 1969, it's on Cadet Records, and it's called Heavy Exposure. I actually found that almost like in a discount bin. It wasn't one of the regular ones that was in his file. By the time I started buying, he was recording for Fantasy, and he had a whole different kind of band. They called it the Young Thundering Herd. And it was one that was really into the popular music. More popular songs, little jazzier arrangements. This one, again, it's on LP. I'm just going to give you an idea of the song list first of what kind of things he's playing. We got a song called The Hut by Richard Evans. Now, we'll probably talk about Richard Evans sometime later, but he had written a couple of great tunes that Woody recorded. My Cherie Amour. I mean, there's one, Stevie Wonder, right? We've got It's Your Thing by Isley Brothers. Catch That Bird by Lunas McGlone. I don't know that one right off. Got Sex Machine by Sylvester Stewart, who you'll know as Sly Stone, right? So we got Sly and the Family Stone represented here. We've got Flying Easy by Donny Hathaway, another name that should be familiar. Can't Get Next to You, Whitfield and Strong. Aquarius from the Broadway production of Hair. And there was a number of bands that were doing music from Hair. Another one that comes to mind right off was James Last, who did a whole album of music from Hair. Memphis Underground, that great tune by Herbie Mann. We've talked about his album and that song. Great job here. High School Hero by Jake Holmes, and Lancaster Gate, another Richard Evans tune. I'm going to just take a minute and put this back in the sleeve. For those of you that don't remember this era, it came with a great sleeve inside to put my record back in to protect it, right, to keep it from getting scratches and marks on it. But it also, in this case with Cadet, gave them a chance to advertise a number of other albums. So a little advertising in here as well to promote other albums that Cadet was recording. Now, Cadet was not really an album or label that I was well familiar with. So this was kind of something new. I don't know how many albums he actually recorded on Cadet, but I know this one was where, again, he was starting to turn the corner and try and reach a new audience. Now, some of the band members have been around for a while, but he's got some new ones on here as well. Firstly, this album recorded September 2nd and 3rd, 1969, 2 days to record an album. None of that in the studio for months. No, in, do it, out. So you get the impression here that, like a lot of them, pretty much just recorded live in the studio. We're not getting a lot of overdubs, a lot of second tries. We're just going in playing it like we would. And that's what I do love sometimes, because now you're hearing the band the same way you would hear it if you went to a concert. We'll talk about that in another few weeks. We look at a couple of Maynard Ferguson albums that were really recorded with his touring band and really represented what you were going to hear when you went to an event. Okay, on this one, who have we got on the trumpet section? First one I always look for, and of course, this era, Bill Chase on trumpet. Now, I'm thinking this was one of the last albums that Bill played on. There was another album that came out between this and the Raven Speaks. By that time, Bill was gone. I don't think he played on the next album either. So I'm thinking this is one of the last, if not the last album that Bill Chase played on before he went off and started his own band. We got William Byrne, who had been with Woody every time I saw him. He's on almost all the albums I have. He was he was just a standard in the hall in the trumpet section. We got Harry Hall, Richard Murphy, and Rigby Powell. Now those guys were not around by the time I got to see the band. Reed Sal Nestico, very familiar name. Frank Vicari, Steve Lederer, and Alan Govin. Trombones, here we got Bobby Burgess, and there's a name that's come up a few times. I mean, love hearing his play, but more fun for me down here was another trombone player, Tom Malone. And we've mentioned Tom so many times on this show. I mean, there's almost nobody. Lee Sklar, Tom Malone, they play with just about everybody, right? Tom Malone playing trombone on here with Pete Dalbis. Piano is John Hicks, bass Gene Perla, Ed Sof on drums. And again, I got a number of albums that Ed plays on. So another guy that came up through the Herman band. Phil Upchurch on guitar, Donnie Hathaway on organ. And again, a very familiar name out there. Percussion, we got Richard Powell and Marshall Thompson. On tracks, a few of them on here, we got drummer named Morris Jennings. Now, again, not somebody I was familiar with at that time, but again, this was kind of that transition period. The next stage, we hit fantasy album, a whole different line of producers, a whole different type of songs, a lot more arrangements by actual band members and soloists. So we had some great players in there. On here, a lot of solos, Frank Vicari, Bobby Burgess, Herman, Sal Nestico. We've got Bill Chase doing solos. Harry Hall's doing solos. Burgess again. Anybody we haven't talked about yet? Vicari, yes we had. Trombone, Burgess, Govin on baritone sax. Phil Upchurch on guitar. Mainly here, Woody Herman doing soprano sax, doing some clarinet, and I'm going to say alto sax on here. By the time I saw him, he was doing a lot more soprano than anything else. But again, we'll talk about those albums in another couple of weeks. This is a great one for you to check out. If you haven't experienced some of this big band music and want to check it out, this one's great because they are songs that you're going to be familiar with, quite a few of them. They're very accessible. The solos are short and to the point. They don't carry on. I know some albums you get soloists that go on and on and on. These are short. There you go. There's the solo. We move on back to the tune. It was songs here ranging from, that late 2-minute to early 3-minute kind of standard that you had for radio play. So, I mean, it's not like these are the 15-minute songs that you're going to be playing through. You get lots of variations, lots of different styles of playing, lots of great players to hear. And it's Woody Herman, Heavy Exposure, Cadet Records. Check it out. That's it for Monday. We'll see you on Wednesday. We're back with classic rock. Till then, everybody take care. Stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.